Ladies and gentlemen, great pleasure being here today to give you some insights on what we call sustainability, and I'll try to answer the question at the early stage of the presentation. Is it a must-have for investors? Well, of course, because I think if you're just looking on all these image activities, corporate values of today, I think everybody knows what's going on behind the scene. So the sustainability isn't much more a statement to become a better corporate. Meanwhile, you had a lot of measurable effects on that. Might be from Adidas, the next World Championship will come, and there is a good tool for German journalists to look where the balls really come from. So again, it's a serious business, and I think if we go 10 years in future, we all agree that this will be a fundamental for, let's say, rating or financing issues. I think starting with Mr. Clinton, it's the risk stupid. Maybe for 5 years ago, I would start the presentation, such a presentation with, ladies and gentlemen, we have to rescue the planet, which is absolutely useful, sensible statement, reasonable statement. On the other hand, meanwhile, I just tell the story, which is called, if you don't do this, it's a risk, it's an enormous risk. And so what we've done here is to show you on a real estate fair and the real estate booth why investors react or act on these things. What you can see here is the live service of a lot of these so-called high-rise or skyscrapers, as we say in Frankfurt. But the most interesting thing is, after the refurbishment process, might be 30, 50 years later, you see meanwhile, especially in the younger generation, you see meanwhile a lot of these so-called certifications. And the certifications are really beloved in Germany because they are the only measurable thing from investors, from people who offer these things, to be a promoter of the green thinking, of the green activities. And again, meanwhile, Frankfurt, just to bear this in mind, has more than 50 certified properties. So Frankfurt is the world record leader for German certifications and the real estate market. I'd like to show you just 4 to 5 other slides on a survey we've made in preparation for the Expo Real. And there was an interesting thing. We talked around about 100 European real estate investors on their believings on their sustainability activities. And one of the main thing was, when do you establish your research/corporate sustainability department? And surprisingly, the highest tool you see here is the 2010. And if you're going back in your own company, it was the year where all these first meetings start up and the chairman invites you, let's talk on carbon disclosure and responsibility and all these things. So there is really a clear correlation between the believers of the industry and obviously the foundation of corporate sustainability departments. I touched this point already, but I think it's again a situation where we can have a lot of discussions 2 for 3 hours. It was the status of February this year. You can see here that we have, I wouldn't say still, a broad spectrum of activities called certifications on property. It's the BREEAM, the British one, the DGNB, the German one, ASHQUE, France, and the Benelux mainly, but also the LEED. And again, I think Judy will ask us later some question, which is the most valuable. I wouldn't answer this question, Judy, but what we can see here, quite clear, I think there is a kind of a race coming from a German perspective between the BREEAM, the British one, and the LEED out of Germany, to be honest. But I think we should also touch this point. The next level for companies who already are make the first step on this GRI process, which means reporting activities. So the CSR report is the first proof that you are doing something reasonable and sensible in the market. The next level is, now we have the figures and the data, but what about the benchmarking effect? There are also some really clear answers, especially from the investor side. More than around 40% agree with the GRESB as the benchmarking system, maybe in Europe for the next years. The other ones are not really, I would say, not really existable or find another way. Short final slide, nearly final slide. We asked them also, what are your strategic way for the next 24 months? And what are you doing when you gave the first statement, yes, we believe in sustainability, it's for us a big corporate value. I think the most part is the environment called CO2 or carbon footprint. Around this buzzword, I think a lot of activities already started, will start for the next, let's say, 2 to 4 years maybe. There were also green facility management, green leases, a lot of these green talk things. And this brings me, honestly speaking, to a maybe a little bit pessimistic view on that, coming from experience for the last 4 years on that. You will find a lot of companies who give already the commitment to do something like that, and I call them, they are the avant-garde, because they make measurable things. On the other hand, the rest, which means the 99.9%, are sitting in a position which is mainly driven by, let's wait and see if we get the first general agreements, standards and all these things, which sounds reasonable to be honest. But on the other hand, the avant-garde, especially my role and the role of the ladies we're here later on, we are part of the avant-garde, to be honest. But our chairmen and our clients want to have, meanwhile, quantifiable benefits. We know what it costs to do green, to be responsible. The question for all, which nobody answered meanwhile, is and what are the earnings on that? And this is again, I think, back to Judy and your discussion, I think will be also one of the main topics we have to discuss later on. Thank you.